Tracy was known for her energy, her ease in conversation, and a life meticulously curated with small passions from exotic pets to handcrafted jewelry sold online. That night, she floated between tables, laughing, observing, fully present, yet unknowingly, steps away from a disappearance that would confound authorities for years. By dawn, Tracy had vanished. Her car would later be found abandoned, keys gone, personal effects missing. It was a night that began like any other but ended with a trail that would lead investigators down cold, silent streets, through forensic dead ends, and into a web of previous violence they hadn't anticipated. If you follow cases like this, consider subscribing. Keeping eyes on stories like Tracy's is sometimes the only way they aren't forgotten. Tracy Ocasio's disappearance set into motion a methodical and precise investigation, conducted with the cold discipline characteristic of long-form missing person cases. Her last known location, the Florida tap room, was secured immediately. Investigators reviewed hours of surveillance footage, meticulously analyzing every frame. The video confirmed that Tracy left the establishment around 1:30 a.m., accompanied by 28-year-old James Virgil Hathaway. Their movements were captured in stark detail: the way she adjusted her jacket, the angle of her gait, the measured pace at which they departed. Every micro-motion became part of the timeline. Detectives conducted interviews with patrons and staff, each statement logged, transcribed, and bartenders remembered Tracy moving between tables, engaging warmly with strangers and friends alike. Patrons described her as vivacious, attentive, and deeply immersed in the game. Yet none reported witnessing any unusual behavior or confrontation. Despite these accounts, a growing unease emerged. The last moments recorded were unremarkable, ordinary even, yet they marked the beginning of an inexplicable absence. James Hathaway was brought in for questioning the following day. He provided a narrative in which Tracy had agreed to a ride home but declined further interaction at his residence after rejecting the marijuana he offered. His statements, however, were inconsistent with digital evidence. Tracy's phone pinged near his home hours later, contradicting his account of the night. Detectives recorded each inconsistency with forensic precision, careful to note the limits of certainty while recognizing the potential significance of even minor discrepancies. Simultaneously, Tracy's yellow Chevy Cobalt was located on Franklin Street, abandoned, unlocked, and without keys or personal items. Bloodhounds and cadaver dogs were deployed, but no scent trail could be established, suggesting she had not entered or exited the vehicle at that location. Investigators expanded the search to the surrounding areas, including wooded lots and residential backroads, yet physical evidence remained elusive. Over the following days, investigative focus broadened. Background checks revealed Hathaway's prior interactions with law enforcement and prior incidents of violence against women. Detectives cataloged every prior offense, every minor complaint, integrating it into a comprehensive profile that remained strictly factual and devoid of speculative leaps. The search effort escalated to include volunteers, mounted units, dive teams, and ATVs covering hundreds of acres. Each team meticulously documented findings, noting terrain, vegetation, and environmental conditions, aware that even trivial details could later prove critical. Despite the precision, the area offered only silence and the occasional misleading trace of bootprint that led nowhere. A disturbed patch of soil, a fleeting shadow observed by a searcher but uncorroborated. Community members and neighbors were questioned extensively. Witness accounts were cross-checked with timelines from surveillance, phone records, and search logs. Investigators constructed multiple overlapping timelines to reconcile all data points, aware that misalignment in just a single detail could undermine the investigative framework. The cadence of the investigation was deliberately slow, methodical, and cold of reaction documented. Every anomaly recorded, and every hypothesis tested against empirical evidence. Even with these exhaustive efforts, months passed with only fragments: the abandoned car, a series of contradictory phone pings, and the growing realization that Tracy had disappeared into a void that resisted traditional forms of tracking. As authorities labored over timelines and digital breadcrumbs, the Ocoee community watched in muted apprehension, aware that each day that passed without resolution deepened both grief and unease. If you followed this investigation closely, consider leaving your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes your insight could highlight what even trained eyes might overlook. As the investigation advanced, investigators began documenting anomalies that were subtle, yet persistent, defying easy explanation. Despite exhaustive searches of areas surrounding Tracy's last known whereabouts, no scent trails or definitive physical evidence could be established. Cadaver dogs, which had previously proven reliable in locating human remains, failed to detect anything beyond the immediate vicinity of her abandoned vehicle. Footprints, when discovered, seemed to emerge without origin, vanishing as quickly as they were observed. Compasses swung unpredictably near dense wooded areas, and radios intermittently emitted bursts of static, with no source ever determined. The inconsistencies in Tracy's phone records added further complexity. Her device pinged near James Hathaway's residence at approximately 8 a.m., hours after he claimed she had departed his property. The timing suggested movement that could not be reconciled with witness accounts or physical observations. Investigators treated these anomalies with clinical detachment, logging every irregularity without assigning meaning, aware that interpretation too early could compromise the integrity of the case. Search teams reported additional disconcerting details. During sweeps through the wooded corridors of Ocoee, some members noted impressions in damp soil that could not be matched to any search personnel or local residents. These impressions were sporadic, inconsistent, and defied easy categorization. Yet each was photographed, measured, and logged. Helicopter patrols sometimes caught fleeting glimpses of shapes among tree canopies, always at the edge of visibility, never fully identifiable. As weeks progressed, the search radius expanded to include previously overlooked parcels of land, abandoned properties, and narrow wooded strips between residential zones. Mounted units combed fields while ATVs and four-wheelers traversed underbrush, each team meticulously recording observations, no matter how inconsequential they appeared. Static bursts on radios, erratic compass readings, and vanishing footprints were logged alongside verified leads, creating a dual narrative of tangible evidence and anomalous occurrences, both equally enigmatic. Every report, no matter how minor, was archived. Investigators maintained strict forensic discipline, ensuring that the line between speculation and fact remained intact. Even as the environment itself seemed to resist clarity, the tension of uncertainty permeated each operation. Volunteers, officers, and search coordinators operated in near silence, their movements deliberate, aware that in such a case, the smallest misstep could mean losing what little evidence remained. If these unexplained occurrences capture your attention, consider liking the video. Each acknowledgement ensures that Tracy's story remains in focus, and that the anomalies surrounding her disappearance are not forgotten. Tracy Ocasio was not a figure defined by her disappearance. She was alive in every sense before that night. Friends and family described her as effervescent, endlessly curious, a woman who moved through spaces with an ease that invited connection. She had a particular fondness for detail: her pets, her jewelry, the books she collected, the small routines that gave structure to her life. Her mother, Liz, recalled Tracy's laughter filling the house as she prepared to leave for the taproom, a sound that would never again return. The Florida taproom was more than a local bar. It was a social ecosystem. Tracy knew it intimately. She moved from table to table, acknowledging acquaintances, sharing jokes, celebrating the game with an intensity that marked her as fully present, yet inherently vulnerable. Her disappearance came not from neglect or carelessness but from a sudden fracture in that familiar world, an absence that was immediately tangible in her family's home and across the bar she frequented. Even the small details became poignant in hindsight. The absence of her phone and wallet, the abandoned Chevy Cobalt, the notes from the state attorney's office that had arrived just days prior, all fragments of a life interrupted. The moments leading up to her vanishing were documented by friends, by neighbors, and by technology itself. Yet these records offered only questions, no answers. Each detail, meticulously recorded, formed a mosaic of normalcy, subtly eroded by the unknown circumstances of her disappearance. Her family's grief was measured, composed externally, but internally fraught with tension and uncertainty. Every unreturned call, every silent day, expanded the void left behind. Tracy's story, reconstructed from these traces, reveals the contours of a life interrupted in motion, a presence frozen between what was known and what could never be confirmed. As months turned into years, investigators continued to uncover layers of complexity in Tracy Ocasio's disappearance. The initial digital evidence, while limited, became the focal point for further analysis. Phone records were re-examined in painstaking detail. Tracy's device, which pinged near James Hathaway's residence at times incongruent with his statements, revealed inconsistencies that suggested movement unaccounted for in any official timeline. Each ping, time-stamped and cross-referenced against calls, texts, and known locations, formed a digital breadcrumb trail that seemed to defy the conventional logic of her movements. Simultaneously, field teams reported anomalies that, while subtle, persisted across searches. Radios used by ground units occasionally emitted bursts of static or faint interference, not attributable to equipment malfunction. Compasses swung irregularly near certain dense groves and wooded corridors, confounding standard navigation. Footprints appeared in areas already swept. Impressions in damp soil that did not match any searcher's boots, then disappeared without trace. Investigators catalogued each instance with meticulous care, maintaining a strict distinction between verifiable fact and observed irregularity. The discovery of Tracy's black boot in August 2009 intensified scrutiny. Found by horseback patrol during routine training near State Road 50 and Blueford Avenue, the boot was of her size and potentially linked to her disappearance. DNA testing proved inconclusive, insufficient to definitively confirm ownership. Surrounding terrain was canvassed with cadaver dogs, but no additional scent or evidence emerged. Investigators documented soil conditions, vegetation, and environmental factors with precision, understanding that even minor details could be significant in future analysis. James Hathaway's history added context to the investigation, though it did not establish causation. His prior assaults on Christie and reports from other women painted a pattern of predatory behavior, but each connection to Tracy required cautious interpretation. Investigators remained methodical, weighing each lead against established facts, aware that assumptions could obscure truth. His computer seized during an unrelated drug paraphernalia arrest revealed hours spent researching suicide, an eerie but legally ambiguous detail. Radio logs, surveillance footage, and witness statements were cross-referenced repeatedly, revealing minor contradictions in timing and recollection. Some inconsistencies were procedural. Others, like the unexplained phone pings or the vanishing footprints, remained unresolved. Each new piece of evidence, while circumstantial, expanded the investigative mosaic, weaving together verifiable facts, irregularities, and gaps in the record. If these contradictions and anomalies intrigue you, consider leaving a comment below. Public attention can sometimes illuminate aspects that even trained investigators might overlook. Years have passed since Tracy Ocasio vanished, yet the case remains unresolved. Investigators continue to revisit evidence, submitting materials to newer technologies, hoping that incremental advancements might illuminate a fragment previously missed. Phone pings, abandoned vehicles, and solitary items like the black boot persist as silent witnesses, each telling a story without revealing the whole. Tracy's family maintains vigilance, their grief tempered by hope that closure may one day arrive. The Ocoee Police Department, constrained by leads that peter out and contradictions that deepen, treats every minor report with attention, understanding that even the smallest clue could be pivotal. Search areas have long since returned to quiet. Woods that once hosted coordinated sweeps now hold only wind through branches, the occasional rustle of wildlife, and the memory of human absence. There are moments in the record where the mundane becomes unsettling: footprints that cannot be matched, compasses that falter, radio static that cannot be traced. Each anomaly is logged with neutrality, yet it contributes to a pervasive sense that the environment itself resists certainty. Tracy's presence, once tangible, is now perceptible only through traces, through recollection, through speculation. If you want to ensure stories like Tracy's are never forgotten, consider subscribing. Keeping attention focused can sometimes compel the unseen to emerge. In Ocoee, on quiet nights, the streets where she was last seen remain undisturbed, yet a sense of something missing lingers, as though the shadows themselves remember what the light has forgotten.